half is underway in the other group game in Group C tonight. PSG leading by a Juan Bernat goal to nil. That goal coming just before half time away to Napoli. A rapturous reception for ex-Napoli man Edinson Cavani ahead of tonight's game as well. Elsewhere in Group A, Monaco out of the competition. They've lost yet again, this time a 4-0 reversal at home to Club Brugge, while Atletico Madrid lead Borussia Dortmund by a goal to nil. That goal coming from Saul Niguez 12 minutes before half time at the Wanda Metropolitano. Elsewhere in Group D tonight, things going very much Porto's way. They're 2-0 up at home to Lokomotiv Moscow. Hector Herrera and Musa Marega with the goals for the Portuguese side there, while Schalke are 1-0 up at home to Galatasaray. Guido Burgstaller has gotten the goal for them. Martin O'Neill, meanwhile, says, and concedes even, that there are more than footballing issues at stake for Declan Rice as he continues to mull over his international future. The West Ham teenager again omitted from the 36-man provisional squad that O'Neill named today for the upcoming friendly with Northern Ireland and the Nations League trip to Denmark. That game being played in Aarhus. The young Southampton striker Michael Obafemi was included today, as was Liverpool goalkeeper Caoimhín Kelleher, on loan at Hearts defender Jimmy Dunn, and the midfielder on loan as well at Rotherham from QPR, and ex of Galway United Ryan Manning included in that 36-man panel today. And in rugby, Conor Murray won't be involved for Ireland this week. The Munster scrum half have been training with the squad, with the Ireland squad, prior to their trip to Chicago, but has not yet played this season, has Murray. He's not part of preparations for Saturday's test with Argentina at the Aviva either. However, the Irish coaching staff remain coy on his potential involvement against the All Blacks. One man set to miss Saturday's game with the Pumas is Rob Kearney, with the fullback only rated as 50-50 for that game on Saturday. And a latest score as well from the Leinster Club hurling quarter final. It's currently Ballyboden St Enda's 112, Clonkill 111. They're into the second half in this one, and a meeting with the Offaly champions awaits the winners in the semi-finals, Joe.
Cheers, Rich.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Proud supporters of Responsible Gambling Week. Visit responsiblegamblingweek.org for details on who to contact if you or a friend need help or advice.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Oh, not the greatest evening for Liverpool in the Champions League. They were beaten 2-0 away to Red Star Belgrade. Elsewhere in their group, PSG 1-0 up away to Napoli as things stand, 48 minutes on the clock. So if it stays like that, then it will be PSG on 7 points, Liverpool on 6 points, Napoli on 5 points, and suddenly, Kenny Cunningham, the elbow room that Liverpool have just becomes a little bit tighter. Maybe they're playing for second, or certainly in a bit of trouble for first anyway. So a bit of a muck-up from them this evening against a team whose entire squad cost 44 million. Jurgen Klopp was on BT Sport and gave this reaction.
You could see that a few things are not going too well, but we had chances. Then we had, I think, a chance he usually scores with. We had our moments in the box. They defended on the line twice after headers from us, but then they had too many set pieces. That's true. And then with one of them they scored when the block worked for Virgil in that area. So they could score that goal, and out of the blue, more or less, they could score the second one. And then, of course, the atmosphere was completely different. It was you could feel it. They were, if you want, on their bikes, and we had to deal with the situation. And half-time, we tried to change a few things and did that. And again, then the second half was really dominant, of course. But we didn't score. We had the situations, scrumpy balls, Sadio, Mo, where we then, of course, the last one, Sadio's most chance was big. Then a lot of balls which don't even count as a shot on target because we missed the target. So we had them. It's hypothetical, but if we score with one of them, the game can change. But we didn't. So they stayed completely comfortable. We're fighting really hard. So they deserved the 3 points. That's what we have to admit.
As you forecast, this group is going to be tough. And now we get to the tough bit. So is your initial view, we've got two big games, we win them both, we'll be okay? Is that your thinking tonight?
Look, I'm a human being, and if I would be now 10 minutes after the game here and have big speech, then I would think I'm a bit silly, to be honest. So we are impressed. That's not what we wanted, and we will go for the other 2 games 100%. But I have no message in the moment. We all have to deal with it now. It was a game we lost, and that happened not 20 times so far. So we feel it really. It feels the boys are very disappointed. I'm very disappointed, and we have to do better. We have to do better because we can do better. But tonight it's too late. So we have to. Now we have a long flight home. Have enough time to think about it, and Sunday Fulham is waiting, and so they saw the game tonight as well probably, and will think, okay, this team has weaknesses. So, and we have to make sure that we don't have them anymore on Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, they play Fulham on Sunday. It's the early game if you're looking out for that one. So that's Jurgen Klopp. Bad night for Liverpool. We touched on it earlier, Kenny. For people just tuning in, we were saying they're not in quite the best form this season just yet. They haven't quite clicked.
Yeah.
Ironically, defensively, they're brilliant. They seem to have switched over the summer and gone from being a brilliant attacking force to now this fantastic defensive force, and just not quite clicking when it comes to play further up the field. Why not, do you think? Can you put your finger on it? When you watch them, is there just a certain kind of sharpness missing, or do players look tired, or is it the balance in midfield, or is it hard to put your finger on?
Yeah, I think sometimes it can just a drop off in terms of individual performance. Now, what's the reason? Is Salah playing at the level that he was last season? Probably not. Firmino, I don't think so as well.
What are you seeing with Firmino?
Maybe just not as prominent in games. Last year, I just thought he dominated games to an extent in terms of he was always the focal point in terms of dropping off, receiving the ball, linking things up, allowing the other two to drive in behind, if not feeding those players in himself. Work rate as well, the intensity of his work rate when they lost possession of football. He was usually the first one to go hunting the ball. If not, he was dropping into midfield, stealing the ball off opposition kind of midfielders. He was almost a springboard for kind of countless Liverpool attacks, and it was kind of Mane and Salah were putting the finishing touches on things. So I don't think it's any one thing. Tactically, not an awful lot has changed. The personnel has changed ever so slightly, 1 or 2 positions. I still feel, I'll come back to it, I mean, the potential, a small issue for me last year, although the defensive threat, as you spoke about, that central defensive partnership has been resolved. But that central midfield area, I remember having conversations here last year, even Kevin was in, we were speaking about, I just felt they were short in that central midfield area. Emre Can, that conversation seems a long time ago. For me, just wasn't quite at the level that Liverpool needed. They had to improve. And they did that with Keita coming into the team. And I think when he plays and Henderson, when I've seen those two play this season, Liverpool have a real physical presence in that central area of the pitch, real energy, dynamism. They can get around, they can make tackles, they can run backwards, forwards with real kind of high intensity. And that's for me when Liverpool are at their best. I looked at them tonight, then again, Wijnaldum in that holding midfield position. Lallana has come in, don't really impose themselves as much as I've seen previously with those other personnel. So that'd be a small issue for me going forward. But it's only small issues. I think in terms of the individual performances, Joe, that recover, those players will recover their form. They're too good not to. Firmino, Salah in particular, and get the right combination, that central midfield there. For me, Henderson coming back in with Keita, allied to a Milner, whoever it is. Wijnaldum may, for me, playing a little bit higher up the pitch rather than holding midfielder. Then for me, they're the answers to the questions that you were answering. The defensive setup looks absolutely fine to me. Goalkeepers all well and good. But they'll need to find that winning formula pretty quick, because position they find themselves in again, let's see how that PSG game finishes tonight. But if they go and keep that lead, PSG, really push the squeeze in Liverpool, Joe, going into those last 2 games, they're going to have to win one of those games. And it may well be the last game at home to Napoli, and that won't be easy.
No, still 1-0 to PSG, an hour on the clock. So the game was on Virgin Media Sport. Kevin Kilbane, Graham Souness, Keith Andrews gave this reaction afterwards.
It was a really, really below par performance, and that's only 3 wins now in the last 9.
Exactly. They won their first 7. Everyone's talking about Liverpool moving to another level. Yeah. As Keith says, 3 wins in the last 9 now. Are there real problems here that the Liverpool fans should be worried about?
Well, I think we looked at it, the midfield area tonight. We thought, well, these 3 might be able to control the tempo of the game, and they simply didn't. Up front, they created a couple of chances. Sturridge missed one in the first half, but yeah, there would be questions of them. Are they at the level that City are at? Are they at the level of a Barca or a Bayern, Real Madrid? You mean, getting to the final last year is great, but Tonight, they never controlled the game away from home. They didn't weather the storm early. They conceded chances. It wasn't isolated incidents that's got Red Star in front in that first half. And second half, around 85% possession they had of the ball, and created, apart from maybe a 10-minute spell, the start of that second half, created virtually nothing. Long throws and corners being put into the area. That was all they created.
They're not at the level they were. They're not at the level they were at last year.
Okay, that ties in with what we're saying. That was in Virgin Media Sport, by the way, the new home of European football in Ireland. More than 400 UEFA Champions League, Europa League, Nations League games live this season. Virgin Media Sport, exclusive to all Virgin Media TV customers, who can also download the TV Anywhere app and stream all the action whenever and wherever they like. We talked earlier on in the show about Martin O'Neill being in town today. He named a 36-man provisional squad for the friendly against Northern Ireland and the Nations League trip to Denmark later this month. So 4 uncapped players. For people who didn't catch it earlier, Caoimhín Kelleher, the goalkeeper at Liverpool, who was in Belgrade this evening. You've worked with him at the under-19s international level. Really think highly of this guy. He could well go on and play Premier League football. You were saying Jimmy Dunn from Hearts and Ryan Manning, Rotherham, 2 under-21s in the squad as well. And Michael Obafemi, who made his debut for Southampton in January. Nigerian parents, born in Dublin, spent a lot of his youth since in England and has played for Ireland at under-17s and 19s level. There were reports a while back he was going to declare for Nigeria, but O'Neill has called him up into the squad, so we'll see how he goes. He hasn't actually featured for Southampton yet this season, played last season. Mark Hughes at the time was talking about his unbelievable pace at the time. So O'Neill today was talking about a few different things. He talked about Declan Rice, which we've played. Invariably, James McClean came up, so he was asked about McClean and Poppygate, and really O'Neill was as wary of this subject, I think, as most of us have become.
I didn't. Gareth had just mentioned it to me, so I don't really know any more. I haven't read the comments Gareth mentioned just very briefly before I come through, so I'm not in a position to make any further comment on James other than what I've said over the last 20 years with him. You know, I'm here to discuss the squad here, and James always becomes the focus of attention around this particular month. You know, so and I shouldn't have been surprised at all. Nothing unusual about that. But honestly, I'm not able to comment on that or anything else.
So the comments, he hadn't seen them. We'll take him at his word. The comments were made about 48 hours ago. It's understandable he doesn't want to get into this. He was pushed a bit later on. You know, come on, look, okay, you haven't seen the comments. But generally, what are you making of what's going on at the moment?
Well, James is entitled to do what he wants. This is the whole point. And I think it's that's entirely his choice. And I think that choice should be respected. And
that was all he wanted to say in it. He doesn't want to rouse this thing up anymore. You can understand
I can understand it, yeah.
It's totally fair enough. It's a messy, annoying, irritating, grim situation, which actually, instead of getting better, instead of fans in football grounds becoming used to James McClean and his stance, seems to actually be getting worse and revving up at times. What are you making of it from afar?
Yeah, but I think I certainly have respect for James's position on this. Probably over in this island, we're aware of James' origins, his community up the north, where he's kind of coming from, and his own kind of personal history, etc. So that's all well and good. We can see what's kind of driving this. I think in situations like this, Joe, I always feel as if kind of language and tone matters just as much as anything. I think if you kind of contrast it a little bit with maybe Matic's statement this week at Manchester United, in terms of the tone and how that was delivered by the Serbian player, and kind of in contrast to James's statement, which understandably was a lot more emotive. So,
because 4 years ago McClean did do the calm, open letter and tried to explain things rationally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't think he needs to do any more. Really, I read that statement as well. It's 4 years ago, is it? And probably very similar to Matic in that respect. I think that's the only way to move forward, really, in terms of make your reason kind of argument, put it kind of clearly and precisely, and just kind of the tone. And I think generally most people will take it on board and you know, naturally assume, well, yeah, I can understand that argument, and by and large will respect it, which I think most people can.
It does seem going into a football ground gives people license to leave their brains at the door sometimes. So the Professional Footballers Association of Ireland and Show Racism the Red Card have come out today and they've urged the game's governing bodies over there to get tough with offenders. So it's a joint call from Show Racism, the Red Card in Ireland, and Show Racism, the Red Card in the UK, and the PFAI. So they've said the FA in England, the Scottish Football Association, have to take a more robust approach to the abuse faced by players like James McClean and Neil Lennon. So what they say here is racism on the basis of colour, nationality, religion or ethnicity is not acceptable, and all within the game have a responsibility to respond appropriately. James McClean has stood in solidarity with teammates who've experienced racism and spoken out. We stand in solidarity with James McClean, Neil Lennon and all those who experience racism. So they're being very firm here. They're calling it racism. They are upping the ante when it comes to this issue. I mean, I suppose it is really, when you think about it. We probably traditionally, as Irish people, haven't thought of it as racism in those terms, I think. Did you experience, broad term, anti-Irishness when you went over to, like Birmingham, you know, the bombings there in the 70s? There was a real anti-Irish feeling at the time. I don't know to what extent that might have lingered for 20, 30 years afterwards. But did you experience, quote unquote, anti-Irishness from the stand, from people in the game?
No, I can't say I ever did, Joe, to be honest with you. That's my experience, is going to South London initially with Millwall, and there was a number of Irish players at the club at that particular time. Obviously jumped to Wimbledon, and then Birmingham, you've mentioned there, the strong Irish community there, strong links back home. Yeah. And the Irish community was actually integrated very well within the Midlands. So if anything, I'd argue it the opposite way. I generally found, particularly when I made the step up to international football, I found a lot of good feeling amongst people over in the UK, particularly obviously English people, in terms of my situation, being an Irish man and obviously doing well to an extent, gaining international recognition, and generally a lot of good feeling towards me in terms of, well, a great international conference, delighted for you, we hope the Irish do well, qualifying games, maybe World Cup, European Championship qualifier as well, great to see us doing well. I generally found that people were kind of very much behind me, and generally Irish players that are saying football club for obvious reasons, they're one of your own. But generally speaking, I found a lot of similarities, and whether it's Irish, Scottish, Welsh or English, for me there's so much which binds us together as people rather than certain things which kind of prise us apart. I think there's very little. I find people generally very much the same, certainly my experience for 20-25 years in the UK. So no, generally speaking, no, I found the English people per se very supportive of me personally, and the Irish in generally. And although kind of Irish people, whether it be London or Birmingham or whatever city in England, we all tend to kind of pull together, and Irish communities generally have kind of located in certain areas of the city. It's never, I've never felt as if Irish people have kind of separated themselves. Yes, they're drawn together for obvious historical a lot of different reasons, but it's never been to the detriment and to put distance between themselves and kind of the local population. I always felt Irish people have integrated very well, and likewise that's been respected by generally the English population as well. There's been a good dynamic and a good relationship, generally speaking, between those communities. I've never seen it.
That's good to hear, and I think in the main that seems to be the case. Like, McClean and Lennon are two combustible, fiery characters, which I think plays into it, you know. Like, it'll be interesting to see what kind of treatment Matic gets over the next few weeks and next November and beyond. Does this thing blow up and get worse and worse for him? Like, you know, McClean takes to Instagram and, you know, refers to them as C's, and you understand why he's doing that, because frankly they're idiots and ultimately they're in the wrong, but it is a combustible reaction. And even Lennon, who came out afterwards and used words like racism and sectarianism, that is really up in the ante. And yet, like, ultimately you don't condone anyone throwing a coin, and ultimately you don't condone the many terrible things which have happened to Neil Lennon, death threats and bullets in the post and all that kind of stuff. But if you just take that one isolated incident, just that incident, I'm being very clear here, I'm not talking about the other stuff, but just with the coin throwing thing, like, if you go with a couple of thousand people, you do potentially run the risk, you know? Like, that could happen in an Everton-Liverpool game. That could happen in any derby that wasn't necessarily sectarian, you know? Like, if he's going to come out now and say, we need to treat this seriously, and this is racism, and this is as serious as racist abuse in the crowd, then you could argue, well, there's a responsibility that you then have in that football environment not to rev things up further, to almost build bridges, if that's how you want to talk about things. I'm sure I'll get hammered for kind of saying that, and I'm not saying that Lennon deserved it. Of course I'm not saying that. But you do turn around and go at 1,000 people when they thought they've won the game and they haven't lost the game. It's not inconceivable in a football environment that someone will do something stupid, throw a ball, throw something like that. Now, I don't know my way off here, but I was saying that to Kev last week. I made that point to him and he sort of said, yeah, I mean, ultimately, no one wants to rush to condemn Neil Lennon here because ultimately he is the victim for sure. But he does have a role to play, I think, if he wants to use the language he's been using in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I think you're right. We spoke about in terms of tone and language, in terms of how you speak, in terms of what you put out there to the media. I think as a manager, how you kind of carry yourself as a manager is important. Absolutely, particularly within the confines of a stadium, especially emotional moments during the game. That's not easy. It's an emotional game. We all get caught up in it. But I think you're right, because I've experienced situations playing, say, local derbies. We all have. Anybody's played in the professional game. Maybe even my first club, Millwall, West Ham. Intense rivalry there. I've seen that kick off. I've seen managers overreact, and there'd be a reaction from the crowd. Missiles have come on to the football pitch. Now, clearly, there's no kind of racist or sectarian element to that, but we're talking about the same thing here. You know, Birmingham, Aston Villa. It's just a natural thing. That's more of a tribal thing, you know. So for me, kind of religion doesn't play its part in that respect. I'd have to give, I'd respect Neil Lennon in so far as I haven't lived in his shoes. He's been through it. He's kind of lived it for the amount of times that he's been in Scotland. So I'd take on board everything that he says. But I think certainly in terms of having a responsibility as a manager, Sam's, how you interact with the crowd. I've seen managers diffuse situations very cleverly over the years, actually with showing maybe a sense of humour at times, playing up to the crowd. And I've seen managers kind of really take the sting out of a situation, a potential flammable situation that could turn very nasty. Managers just like a little grin to maybe a little one-to-one with somebody within the crowd, you know, whatever, just a little throwaway comment, a little, you know, just diffuse the situation.
Humanises the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, that can happen very quickly, and the opposite can have the effect. The opposite reaction again can inflame things and get the type of reaction that we saw. It's inexcusable. That goes without saying. That's obvious. But there is a little bit of common ground here. I think there's a bit of responsibility, certainly on the part of the supporters when they go to a football stadium, to behave themselves in terms of vocally, in terms of what they project onto the pitch, and physically, obviously, in terms of anything they throw onto the pitch is totally unacceptable. But I think there's a certain level of responsibility there as well on behalf of managers, coaches, staff, and even players to an extent to show a little bit more responsibility at times as well. I don't think it's one or another.
Yeah, okay, interesting. We'll take a short break on a sort of connected theme, although we were planning to talk to him anyway when we saw the news. Pat Fenlon has been appointed Linfield's first general manager, so I guess he'll be interested in this topic, and also the move back to Linfield where he was as a player. So Pat's going to join us in 1 second. I'll give you a quick update on the games before we take a break. So Napoli have equalised against PSG, I just see here, with 20 minutes to go, which is good news for Liverpool this evening. So the Napoli goal, Insigne, 63 minutes, he's a machine, he keeps on scoring, so it's 1-1 in Italy this evening. Napoli 1, PSG 1. Elsewhere, Spurs are still 1-0 down. Kenny, you told me it was going to be 3-1. And Atletico still 1-0 up on Borussia Dortmund. Elsewhere, Schalke 2-0 up on Galatasaray. Porto 3-1 up on Lokomotiv Moscow. And are there any other live games on? Oh yes, in front of us, the big TV screen, Inter 0, Barcelona 0. That's in Spurs' group, but if Spurs lose this evening, it doesn't really matter what happens there in that game. And Thierry Henry's Monaco lost 4-0 this evening earlier on. Short break, we'll talk to Pat Fenlon next.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Proud supporters of Responsible Gambling Week. Visit responsiblegamblingweek.org for details on who to contact if you or a friend need help or advice.
Down to business.
We're back on the road with our brand new roadshow, Your Town, Your Main Street. It's coming to Lawler's Hotel in Naas on the 17th of November. The new roadshow features a panel of experts who'll be giving Naas a health check, focusing on what works in the town from a retail, town planning and civic space point of view. There'll also be live music and a few surprises. That's the all-new Your Town, Your Main Street from Lawler's Hotel in Naas on Saturday, the 17th of November. The event is free, but you do need a ticket, so simply go to the events page on newstalk.com and follow the link.
Down to business.
Brought to you by FBD Insurance.
On Newstalk,
You thought it was a one-day deal, a week at most, but you were wrong. The Black Friday event is now on at appliancesdelivered.ie, and the savings are epic. TVs from just $99.95, up to 40% off washing machines, up to 20% off dishwashers, and up to 25% off refrigeration. The only thing more intense than these savings is my voiceover. The Black Friday event, now on at appliancesdelivered.ie.
Are you concerned about diabetes? Don't miss Ireland's largest diabetes health and wellbeing exhibition with the latest in diabetes products, technologies, healthy living advice and free health checks, including blood glucose, blood pressure and HbA1c. It's free, so why not bring along a few friends to the Rochestown Park Hotel Cork on Sunday, November 11th from 12 noon onwards. For information, visit diabetes.ie or call 01 842 8118. Brought to you by Diabetes Ireland.
Would Milady care to dance?
Certainly, sir.
A story to be told, a drama to unfold, and jewellery to behold. Experience a moment captured in time at Rhinestone St Andrews Street. Victorian brooches, Edwardian lockets, Venetian glass beads, rhinestone jewellery from the golden age of Hollywood, modern gemstones and pearls. Capture the elegance and romance of a bygone era and bring it back to life with a one-off piece of jewellery from Rhinestones, 18 St Andrews Street, Dublin 2.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index, reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
5 years warranty. 5 years roadside assistance. 3% APR.
The Renault van range with the Renault Traffic, Master and Kangoo. Great 191 van offers to get your engine going from just €215 per month. Visit your local Renault dealer today.
Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
Maybe your dream has a twin exhaust, or 7 seats, or leather upholstery. Maybe your dream comes with a marble worktop, or a walk-in wardrobe. Maybe it fits on your finger, or maybe it covers the world. Whatever it is, big or small, a personal loan from Bank of Ireland can help to make that dream come true. Search Bank of Ireland Loans, call us, or drop into any Bank of Ireland branch. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Over 18s only. Warning, if you do not meet the repayments of your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. So it's funny to see the reaction you get on Twitter to something like this. For instance, Chris Keenan at Malloy Joe, Kenny Cunningham, basically saying Lennon brings it on himself by goading the crowd. Wait, that's not what we're saying, Chris, respectfully, and maybe just listen back a bit more carefully. And then you followed up that tweet by saying, I suppose he brought the death threats for playing for Northern Ireland on himself, or the bullet in the post. I mean, again, we very, 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 very clearly said we were just talking about specifically this incident, and that all the other stuff was absolutely outrageous and wrong. And in this instance as well, we said several times Lennon was the victim. You don't condone it. The offender ultimately is the culprit. However, we were just making the point that everyone can improve their behaviour at times, even Neil Lennon in that instance. There are realities to a football stadium environment. Surely you would concede that. And also, you've sent about 4 tweets. Like, if you're going to intentionally butcher an honest and nuanced discussion and omit certain key things, then you're just going to kill off all worthwhile discussion. And that's part of the problem with the world at the moment. So, listen to what was said, think about it, don't just jump up and down on Twitter with 10 tweets and come back at me, because we're trying to talk about it honestly. We can ignore it completely, absolutely ignore it completely, and there's no problem, and then that's no good. Or everybody becomes more divided and stops listening to each other. I think if Neil Lennon was on the show, I would absolutely put it to him, could you improve your behaviour to a point? But was he the victim? Yes, he was. Is the idiot who threw the coin the real problem? Yes, he is. And that's what we're trying to say. So we'll leave it at that. Pat Fenlon's on the line. I dare say you'd love to get into this discussion right now, I'd say. This is right what you want to hear being discussed before you came on.
I know, yeah. I've been on that line in Tynecastle.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, we're talking to you because congratulations, you're Linfield's first general manager, which is a really good side of this story, because these are entrenched beliefs and traditions, and footballers is a part of it as much as anything. But you've been on that side of things in Scotland as well. You've been that manager on the sideline. Can you give us an insight? I mean, Lennon obviously seems to get the brunt of it, but an insight into what it's like?
Look, it is intense. It's a massive derby in Scotland. I think people have to realise here that the intensity of football in Scotland is huge. It's the biggest sport, and there's huge interest in it. And when you go to Tynecastle as the Hibs manager, well then you're in for a rough ride, and that's just part of being the manager, I suppose, of either club. But like I said, it is an intimidating place, but you just got to. The way I look at things like that is you put yourself in a position to be a manager. You've got to be able to take a bit of stick and just get on with it, I suppose,
Sorry, Kenny, I thought you wanted to come in. Yeah, I can imagine. Is it difficult? I presume you're aware that the crowd is fairly combustible as well. Like, I mean, we saw what happened in Lennon's situation. Do you have to kind of watch your P's and Q's a little bit?
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, Tynecastle is a real tight environment. And that's why it's a good ground for atmosphere, And well, listen, the last time I was there, fortunately enough, we won, and I didn't want to come off the pitch at the end because I'd been on the back of a couple of hammerings from hard. So, but you just got it's part of the game, isn't it? As a manager, you got to be aware of that. Listen, we've all lost our head on the line. There's no doubt about it, and I've done that many times, but. I think there's a line to be drawn, isn't there, from both sides, and as a manager you try not go over that line. Very difficult at times.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I can imagine. Personal stick, but you just got to try and manage that yourself.
Yeah, you see, look, if you're looking for perfection in some respects, if you're saying, well, what is someone like Neil Lennon meant to stand there like a statue the whole time? I appreciate that must be incredibly difficult, especially when you've had the 20 years he's had. That's the reality of the situation for someone like Neil Lennon.
Yeah. Listen, when you're enduring 90 minutes of stick and some of it not very nice, and you maybe scored a last-minute winner, in that case, you thought you might have lost the game and the game's chalked off, or the goal's chalked off, well then there is emotion to that, But like I said, you just got to try to keep that in check, and, there is circumstances to your own behaviour, so you got to be careful. But it's not as easy as people think, that's for certain. It's not, because there is something that split things happen like that. It's difficult to stay in control. But like I said, you're a manager, you've got to try to do that.
No, it's true. Look, I'm sitting here in a calm studio, and it's very, very easy for me to say everybody should behave perfectly, which I understand as well. So you're going back to Linfield, their first general manager in their history. You had a great time there as a player by all accounts. I mean, obviously it was successful on the pitch, and you won a league championship and 2 Irish Cups as well. But it was, in 1994, still a pretty unusual thing for an Irish man to go up there, Irish Catholic man to go up there and play. But by all accounts, you had a great time, and it worked out really well for you in all manner of ways.
Oh yeah, I've been on record many a time to say it's the best club I've played for anywhere. And I was just fortunate when I went that. We won a league on the last day of the season against Glentoran, where I scored, and we won an Irish Cup. So it just was one of them things where everything fell into place. And at the time, like you say, it was times were hard for everybody in Northern Ireland at that stage, and it was a difficult time. But listen, I have to be honest, and I've been on record as saying this, I never had an ounce of problem in Northern Ireland in relation to me playing for Linfield, that's for certain. They looked after me so well and made sure that I was feel welcome. And they're a type of support, and I think a lot of support around that are, you're seen to be given everything and playing for the show. Well then, I don't think it matters what your background is or what your creed is or what your religion is. It's just they're there to support a team.
Because Desi Gorman had gone up from Shelbourne, I think, in 92, and maybe he was about the first Catholic player to join, so he'd broken that ground. Were you apprehensive? Did you think twice? Like, when you heard Linfield were interested, did part of you think, well, that can't be right? Or how did you treat their interest?
Listen, you're in Dublin and you're a Catholic, and that's, Linfield are probably the last team you think are going to come in for you in them times. But I had an offer to go to Ards and the Roy Coyle when I was at Bohemians, and that didn't it didn't appeal to me. And then when Linfield came in, it just was one of them things that you knew you were going into a club that was always going to be challenging to win trophies and play in Europe, and I've become used to that with the clubs I've been at in Dublin. So it was a great challenge from that point of view. But like I said, one I don't regret 1 ounce. And fabulous football club, absolutely fabulous football club, both on and off the pitch.
Pat, how's it going? Ken Cunningham.
Kenny, how are you?
Yeah, congratulations on the appointment. Pat, I'm interested in the actual position of general manager. This is the position's kind of somewhat new. It's met with a bit of resistance over in England over the last couple of years in terms of the responsibilities of this particular type of position. Are you pretty clear in terms of your what responsibilities you'll be assuming there, and in particular your kind of relationship with the manager in terms of keeping your distance, but also having a healthy working relationship with the manager as well?
Yeah, listen, my remit is not football related in relation to the club. David Healy's the manager there, and he's done a good job. My remit is the club has developed over the last few years with the development of Windsor Park, obviously, and a brand new training facility behind one of the stands there. And I think the long term project for me is to put a strategic plan together over the next while to have a 4 or 5 year plan, maybe looking towards full time football at the end of it. And I think what the club are trying to do is to be in a position to do that rather than just jump straight into that. Is to build the club up to be ready if that's where they want to go, to take the club into a full time situation. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff in place there that's that unfortunately is lacking in a lot of the clubs down south. But there's the potential there to be a really big club and progress. And I think that's my remit. The football side of it is the managers.
What about recruitment, Pat, if you want me asking? This is kind of a bit of a thorny issue at times in terms of this type of position, particularly over in England. Traditional kind of, as we say, English managers saying, well, it should be the manager that decides which players come into the football club. A director of football stroke manager, general manager has no business. I mean, personally myself, I actually like the structure. For me, as long as you have a kind of whoever that person is a football man, he's got a footballing background, a good understanding of the game, a good eye for players, etc. That type of person can actually help the manager and actually complement what he's trying to do. Will you have some kind of significant input there with David Healy in relation to actually player recruitment, which is probably one of the most important facets of the jobs of a club?
No, I won't. And that was, like I said, the role I had at Waterford was a bit different because it's director of football role and moulded into director of football, general manager when the general manager left the club halfway through the season. So, but the role I have at Linfield is when they've got a proper recruitment structure there already. They always had for years. Right. Even when they signed me, it was a scout that came to watch and did most of the
did make that mistake again, Pat? No.
You won't make that mistake again, Kenny. But no, it's not. Listen, I've obviously got knowledge of players and plenty of contacts in there, and as Dave has said himself, and I said, if Dave wants to tap into that, great. If he doesn't, no issue. And my job is to develop the club, off the pitch and seek him. And it's like I said, if a club is run properly off the pitch, there's benefits to the manager always in that. There's obviously more finances come in. The more the benefit is that to the manager to strengthen the squad. So, and the one thing I know as a manager is the last thing you need is interference from people. In other departments of the club. I've had that before in clubs and it's not the way forward. So, like I said, my job is the remit. My job is to try to develop the club, have a plan in place when the club, if that's the way it wants to go, is put a strategic plan into the club and say, listen, this is what I think, and try to develop the business side of the club as well off the pitch.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds like more of a business strategic.
Pat's going to use all his vast business contacts around the island, by the sounds of it, Joe. He's going to tap into all that big money around the place, JP, etc., etc.
I've run my own business for a long time as well. So
I didn't realise that, Pat. Actually, what business are you in? I didn't realise that. Sorry.
Yeah, I've run a contract cleaning business since 1994. So I still have that going. So it's I do have a background in that, and like I said, I also have a background in football, so it's probably a good combination, a good position to be in. And like I said, it's a club that there's not many clubs I would have got involved in with, to be honest. But this is a club that I feel has huge potential. When you see what the likes of Rovers and Dundalk have done and getting into the Europa League group stage, there's no reason why Linfield can't progress to that level, because they're a bigger club than any one that I've been involved in Ireland. And the potential is massive, and that's what sort of gets you going, is to try bring that potential out.
I was going to say, Pat, does that excite you now more, rather than maybe turning up at the training again, getting your boots on and working with the players on a day-to-day basis, taking a step back up in the boardroom and just working at the structure and actually building the football club? Does that give you a bit of buzz, Pat, now, kind of getting out of bed and jumping in your car in the morning?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've managed for 14 or 15 years and I've enjoyed it. I've had good times and bad times with our managers, but you know, I've gone away from that, and the last role I had at Waterford sort of opened my eyes, and I think the fact that I've seen clubs run here, and obviously the time I had in Scotland or Hibs to see how a football club should be run, and I'm hoping I can bring that knowledge obviously to Linfield, and like I said, help, you know, put a plan together to make the club better and bring it on. It's a great club already, that's what I'm saying, and obviously there's a lot of stuff in place, so it's just a matter of trying to develop it and enhance what's there already.
So I make it 1994. That's when you set up your company. That's the same year you would have went up to Linfield. What age were you when you set up your company, Pat?
1994. I'm 49 now, so work that one out.
Live maths on the air is no fun.
Yeah. No, listen, it was my dad's company. My dad died in 1993, and we took over the part of the company from his partner, and just have ran it since then. You know, so
right, okay.
I said it's.
So you would have been 25, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, that was a lot to take on then.
Yeah, it was, but like I said, it's I've always liked the challenge, you know, so that's probably stems from that as well. You know, that there's a challenge there, there's a challenge here in the new job. So I think you always have to be challenging everything you're doing.
It strikes me as well. So when you went up in '94, October '93 had seen the worst month of violence and the Troubles for 17 years. There were 27 deaths. The Grey Steel massacre, the Shankill Road bombing. So that was a very raw time. Did you live full time up in Belfast? Do you have memories of what the atmosphere was like, or were you commuting?
No, then it was, what they did was myself and Desi and Gary Halick was there at the time, and later on Alan Bourne came up. We used to drive, we'd go up Tuesday and Thursday to training, but we'd drive to Dundalk, and Linfield would send down a car for us, bring us to Windsor Park and train, and then drop us back to the Fairways Hotel in Dundalk, and then we drive home. That's what was done for, you know, for the whole time I was there. Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning we get the train up for games, so that was fine. But obviously, listen, it wasn't. It was a horrible time for everybody.
Yeah. That was for security reasons, I presume, was it?
I think there was a bit of everything in it, to be honest. You know, not driving them days the roads weren't as good. Not driving for long and jumping out of a car to train is not ideal. After maybe a 2-hour journey, and obviously then, you know, maybe a little bit of security in that as well to make sure that we got there and got back and everything was okay. But like I said, and they were the type of things that the club did to make sure we felt welcome, and you know, there's a lot of stuff that they made sure that the players were looked after, not just the players from the south, but all the players. Like I said, and that's one of the attractions to me. It's a proper football club, run properly, run as a football club.
And will you go up to Belfast now, or will you commute up, or will you be there 5 days a week, or what?
No, we'll be there. We'll be there 5 days.
Right.
But I'll commute. You know, there will be sometimes I'll stay there. But like I said, the job in Waterford's further away from me than Windsor Park, so I don't mind the travel. And like I said, when you've managed in Scotland, you'd have had to drive to Ross County and Inverness to watch games. It's a handy drive up to Belfast, to be honest.
Okay, great stuff. Well, listen, congratulations on the appointment, General Manager at Linfield. It sounds like you're really enthused by it. We must get you on in a year's time and see how it's all worked out for you, how it's going.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks very much.
Okay, great stuff. Pat Fenlon, thanks so much.
Thank you. Cheers, Kenny.
Pat Fenlon there, General Manager, Linfield. Interesting stuff on a host of levels. I didn't know he'd set up his own company and ran it for all that time as well.
Yeah, right. No, I think it is really interesting. I actually think I was pushing a little bit there in terms of Pat's responsibilities in that particular role, because I think for me,
you were wondering if he's basically the director of football, but actually it's very much general manager, so he'll just be there if the manager wants to use him.
Exactly, but he's there, that's what I'm saying. But the type of person the manager there can lean on Pat. He's vast experience, League of Ireland football, Scottish football in the north as well. So for me that's the ideal fit. If I'm a manager and I'm looking above, particularly during difficult times at a football club, and you're looking for somebody to give you a little bit of a steer, a little bit of advice, he can give you a bit of opinion you can kind of trust. He's kind of been there and done it. someone like with Pat's kind of footballing history is the one who you want to see. You don't want to see somebody who's come up through university, Harvard educated, business, law school, etc. Do you know, this is what I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean?
Off your shoulder, will you?
Yeah, but what I'm saying,
No,
I'd rather have both.
Yes,
and
Pat's
clearly,
the perfect.
Yeah, Pat clearly has both. So for me, that role can work, and that kind of role has been kind of derided a lot in England. We've heard a lot more traditional type managers. I don't need a director of football to tell me
some stats
blah, blah,
man,
blah.
all this stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But for me, it's the actual idea, because he can take a lot of burden and responsibility away from you. And when you turn around and you think, do you know what? I need 2 or 3 players. Hey, who's out there? I desperately need a right back, a centre midfielder. You turn to your general manager, stroke director of football, wherever it is, and say, oh, can you help me out? He can say, yeah, I've seen this lad play for the last 6 months. Right back, exactly what you need. I've watched this sentiment here. If you look for my opinion, I'll give you one. Trust me, this fella's going to improve the team. From a footballing perspective, for me, that's the absolute ideal. Apart from the kind of business acumen which kind of Pat's going to bring to the football club.
No, I hear you. Sorry, I'm gesturing there to sort of hurry up. So I have to go to an ad break, but I can tell you that Inter and Barcelona have gone 1-1. Barcelona were 1-0 up. Inter have equalised there. But Spurs 2, PSV 1 is the latest from Wembley. Yeah,
don't doubt me, Joe. Don't doubt me.
We'll give you full times in just a second. Spurs 2-1 up.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
Wiltshire Farm Foods driver Jimmy is on the road again.
Morning, Mary.
Jimmy, I was hoping you'd be early. I'm dying for a cuppa and I can't reach the new box of tea bags in the press.
Sure, my own mother is the same. Here you go.
Oh, thanks, Jimmy.
Now, I'll put these into the freezer for you. This apple crumble and custard is going down a treat. Oh, how'd you get on with the roast lamb and the shepherd's pie last week?
Your half portions are just right for me when I think of the hours I spent peeling potatoes.
Anything that makes life a bit easier. Isn't that it, Mary? Now, will I close over the gate on my way out?
The grandchildren were here yesterday, swinging on it. Oh, they're little divils, but sure, I wouldn't be without them.
Wiltshire Farm Foods deliver freshly frozen meals straight to your freezer. Call 1890 171 171 or see wiltshirefarmfoods.ie.
This is a radio ad to tell you that if you're a small business and you go direct to Energia, you get a better deal. That's what we have to say, and we wanted to get straight to it. Because it pays to be direct. Call 1850 363 744 or go to energia.ie/business for a direct quote today. Standard terms and conditions apply.
You thought it was a one-day deal, a week at most, but you were wrong. The Black Friday event is now on at appliancedelivered.ie and the savings are epic. TVs from just $99.95, up to 40% off washing machines, up to 20% off dishwashers, and up to 25% off refrigeration. The only thing more intense than these savings is my voiceover. The Black Friday event now on at appliancesdelivered.ie.
Every brand has a story. Some are built over decades, others over centuries. Discover the German car brand meticulously engineered over 120 years to bring you our cleanest, most efficient engines yet. Discover Opel. Come and celebrate Opel's 120-year anniversary event at your local Opel dealership. Choose your perfect 191 Opel, then choose your preferred offer, like 0% PCP or HP finance, a guaranteed minimum of €3,000 scrappage, or 3 years free servicing. Opel's 120-year anniversary event. Visit your Opel dealership for more. Opel. The future is everyone's. Terms and conditions apply.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back, Kenny. I'll get you to sum up the football in just a second, but I should let people know before we go. Tonight's mystery voice was, of course...
You know what, I only saw clips of it. I saw a bit on social media, but yeah, I mean, kind of everything clicked.
Paul McGinley. Congratulations to Peter Kearns, who won a €100 gift card from McSport.ie and is also in the end of week draw to win a €1,000 gift card. Another chance to win tomorrow. That's all with thanks to McSport.ie. Visit their showroom in the Sandyford Industrial Estate or shop online at McSport.ie. So very quickly, we really don't have much time. It's gone full time. Inter and Barcelona have drawn 1-1. Spurs have beaten PSV 2-1. So that will move Spurs to 4 points, Inter to 7, yeah. Inter to 7. So there's 3 points between Spurs and Inter, and obviously Barca go to 10. They're not out of it. No, you're shaking your head there.
Yeah, no, it's looking, like I said, I never ruled this Spurs team out, but I just think it's too much.
Napoli and PSG 1-1, so that's not terrible news for Liverpool. Keeps everything a bit bunched.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better than, prior to that equalising goal, yeah.
Atletico beat Borussia Dortmund 2-0.
Yeah, it didn't surprise me. I think they were almost humiliated, embarrassed Atletico by the previous result over in Dortmund. So yeah, no surprise they bounced back.
Okay, we're out of time. OTBM live tomorrow from the Web Summit. What a gig that is. They're at the Web Summit in Lisbon. And they'll be talking to Andre Villas-Boas, amongst other people who's over there. So tomorrow night, Kenny Cunningham is back for round 2. I'm just reading this. This is breaking news. I'll see you tomorrow then. I don't need to thank you for tonight then. I'll see you tomorrow.
No need.
And Liam Toll and Rory O'Connor will talk rugby as well. Tom Dunn on the way. Good luck.